What's up, LA? This is Ryan Dyrud with the LA Football Podcast, and support for LAFB is brought to you by Manscaped, the best in men's below-the-waist grooming. Manscaped offers precision engineering tools for your family jewels. Guys, I know a lot of you skip past these ads or just ignore them, but this is one that will actually benefit you every single time you use this product. The worst thing you can do is get nicks, cuts, scrapes, gashes, anything to your southern region down below. It's painful. It's gross. You don't want it. So that's why Manscaped has redesigned the electric trimmer. The Manscaped engineering team spent 18 months, that's a year and a half, perfecting the greatest ball hair trimmer ever created and just released the new and improved Lawnmower 3.0. And even better, you get 20% off and free shipping with the code LAFB at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com and use the code LAFB. I promise you, your balls will thank you.
With USC great and NFL stud, Frostee Rucker.
The Trojans back in front.
And LAFB founder Ryan Dyrud on the Believe Podcast Network and LAFBnetwork.com. This is your destination for Los Angeles football.
Los Angeles, what's happening? What's going on? Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. It's a beautiful Friday, sunny summer day in January. Welcome into the LA Football Podcast as we prep for this divisional battle, Rams versus Packers. It's going to be a Rams show today. Got a great guest joining us. Thanks for tuning in. We are on the Believe Podcast Network, always on the LA Football Network, LAFBnetwork.com for all your podcast and video needs. Let me welcome in first my co-host, Mr. Frostee Rucker, legend from USC, 13-year pro vet. My man, what's going on?
Keep it going. I got a lot of AKAs out there. No, I'm good, man. Thanks for having me today. It is a sunny day in Southern California. I feel good about this episode. One of our old pals, buddies, amigos is coming back on to drop some knowledge on our LA football fans.
Yeah. Nima Mehran coming on. Dr. Nima Mehran. Can't forget the doctor part.
You can't forget the doctor.
No. Yeah, a true doctor. I have like chiropractor friends that make me call them doctor. I'm like, bro, come on. But this is a true doctor, does the good work, works with athletes. He's the LAFB doctor. You know, ESPN, I think, has like Dr. Clapper. We have Dr. Nima, the LAFB doctor. So excited to get him on. We're going to talk a little about Jared Goff's thumb. Obviously, announced yesterday that Walford is out. Goff is the starter, which we all knew. We, here on the show, me and Frosty predicted all week long wasn't going to change, but officially the starter. So we'll talk about how he's progressed with that thumb. Nima can give us some insight on that. Talk about Cooper Kupp's knee contusion. I know he's a go, but still what that means, being in the same knee as the ACL. So let's get into some stuff here that should shed some light, hopefully, to Rams fans. But first, always, the show is brought to you our great sponsors, betonline.ag. Sports are in full swing. Obviously, we got the playoffs for NFL. Basketball's back. The NHL is back. Frosty's favorite sport outside of football. So got some good bets there. And yeah, college basketball is in full swing. Head to betonline.ag. Plenty of prop bets. You can parlay, win some money in this new year, 2021. That's betonline.ag. Great sign-up bonuses. And as always, got to mention Golden Road. Haven't had a beer on the show for a while for us. So, got some Who's House going since this is a Rams show.
Crack it open.
Oh, it's open already. We're going at it. So, Golden Road, shout out to them. Great stuff. Head to the LAFB locker room. You can actually buy beer directly from there. So, Frost, anything else you want to add, or should we just jump into this great conversation with Dr. Nima?
Let's pop the hood and let's get to it. So let's pop the hood a little bit and talk to my good friend, Dr. Nima Mehran, and let him break down these injuries that are going on with the Rams. Doc, what's going on? Talk to us.
Hey, man, it's great to be on the show again, boys. Look forward to chatting. So what do you guys want to talk about first? Which player?
Yeah, Doc, great having you. Yeah, let's start with Cooper Kupp. Knee contusion
Cooper Kupp.
on a non-contact play. Kind of just talk to us. Obviously, we don't know the specifics of it. They're keeping it close, but just what necessarily is a knee contusion? Because I know I've heard that phrase, but like I always like playing dumb with you. Like I don't even know what a contusion is.
Yeah, so a knee contusion is basically like a bruise, right? So you usually get a contusion from a direct contact or a direct force. What's interesting about this one is that it was on a non-contact play, right? So a knee contusion normally can be one of two things. It can be soft tissue. So someone, gets you a knee to knee, like you see in basketball or football, the two players like kind of bump knees. One knee goes right into the quad or the back of the thigh, and it just kind of that soft tissue bruise. Blood vessels pop. You'll see some swelling, some bruising, which is what we call ecchymosis. And that ends up causing a lot of pain. It's kind of like when you get that, what's the term back we used when we were kids? Is it Charlie horse?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's like a Charlie horse, right? And then so you have kind of like weak, your thighs a little bit weak, your quads are a little bit weak. You feel like you have a jelly leg for a while. It takes a couple of weeks, 1 or 2 weeks, and you're kind of back to normal if it's soft tissue. Now, a bone contusion, Frost and I were talking about this a little bit earlier, that's much worse. Bone contusions are like microscopic cracks, and they can be small contusions where you have a little bit of swelling and bleeding and it only lasts a week or two, or it could be a really bad bone contusion where you get so much quad weakness, your leg isn't functioning normal. And so it lasts several weeks to months,
Hey, Doc, I had a tibia bone bruise. Would you say that was safe to say I shouldn't have probably played on it?
Well, it just depends how bad the bruise is and really how you're playing and how you're functioning. If you come out and you're able to tolerate the pain and that you're able to have normal strength and function, then yeah, you can go ahead and play on it. It's just you may need some anti-inflammatories or something like that to get through the pain. But if you don't have the strength, then no, you shouldn't.
Okay. Yeah, I had a brace on mine. I was just wondering if I can go back and file something with workers' comp.
It's funny you say that because I think in my early playing days playing hockey, I probably had you explain that the jelly. I think I had a lot of undiagnosed knee contusions. And I just, played through at 12, 13, 14, 15, young high school kid.
Yeah, it's a common injury, especially the soft tissue one.
Yeah.
Now with Cooper, I think it's a little bit different. Frost also brought up earlier when we were all chatting before we got on that's his ACL knee, right? So that's the knee that he's had his ACL reconstruction. And I think what's happening here, because this was a non-contact injury, is my guess is, and why they were so freaked out, is he had a little bit of a pivot. His knee joint, his thigh bone, and his shin bone had a little small pivot, and the thigh bone kind of banged the shin bone enough where he had a small bone contusion, like a little microscopic crack, right? Causing bleeding. It's functional. He can still do things. Pain isn't too bad. He can go ahead and play on it as long as he has the function. So they test him. His strength is normal. His speed is okay, and he feels like he can go. It's not a big deal. But what they were really worried about, because that pivot, that shift that we call the pivot shift test, is when people tear their ACL. They were freaked out that did he injure his ACL? Did he re-injure it? Mm-hmm. And usually when players have a non-contact injury and they've had an ACL reconstruction, and if they have a little bit of swelling, you're hoping all it was a little bone bruise or a little swelling around the ACL, and the ACL graft is fine, which based on him coming back to play this week, that's my guess. The Rams have excellent doctors. Obviously, I'm biased since my mentor is the head doctor, but yeah. So I think they're in good hands.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it was part shutting him down because mentally, he had to go through that whole rehab of an ACL, and that's for some people that's a career. Now, obviously, medicine's a lot better and people can come back, but they probably shut him down just because he could have got emotional with it. It could have got so scary for him and trauma. Just go ahead and shut him down, ice him down, go do the test when the game's over, and now he's back out there. So let's give a round of applause for our good guy Cooper Kupp on bouncing back from this injury, because the Rams need him. If they're going to make any playoff push, they're going to need Cooper Kupp.
Yeah, well, I think Rams fans held their breath, and a lot of people, including myself, not saying necessarily they would have beat the Patriots in Super Bowl 2 years ago, but they didn't have Cooper Kupp because that's when he tore his ACL, and he would have been a big difference maker in that game. So if they were to lose him again on this playoff run, he's kind of what makes the offense go. He's the guy that when the offense was struggling, when Goff came in, he made that Herculean catch, that 50-yard catch where he jumped over defenders. So how important he is. Last thing on him, Doc, because I'm curious. So Knee contusion, we don't know specifics of it, but from what we can kind of suffice, what we can gather, does that contusion, can it injure anything worse by him playing on it? Or is it kind of just like, hey, if you can go through the pain, obviously football, you can injure anything worse, but like just him running on it can't cause any structural damage, can it?
No. Because again, even if it's a bone contusion, it's such small microscopic cracks. That's why we call it a contusion. It's just the bone bleeding a little bit. So it's, as long as he has the strength, his function is good, he can go ahead and play. The concern though is what Frostee brought up for me. It goes back to people who've had ACL reconstructions. That pivot, that rotation that led to the original ACL tear is actually something that really affects the mental aspect of players. And they have trouble because if they feel that again, if even for a moment during that play, that non-contact, he felt a slight pivot, he kind of was like, oh my God, my knee again. He doesn't want to go through that. And that can really affect that mental aspect, which is a big part of why some of the original ACL tears don't return to play, is because mentally they never get over that. So I worry more that as long as they did the MRI and they've tested him and functionally he feels great, I'm more worried, is he in his own head? Does he have fears about that pivot phenomenon?
Yeah. Well, that's a great point. We saw guys like Todd Gurley, who knows what's true, but we kept being told his knee was good. He wasn't the same player though after that. And last year we saw a huge drop off. And was that mental? Wasn't he not good? So that's a good point. So we'll have to watch Cooper and see how he, his route running and what changes maybe this week from what we saw in the past. So,
yeah.
But hey, a huge sigh of relief that didn't, as far as we know, any structural damage to that. So
to the ACL, yeah.
Yeah. But Doc, let's pivot to Jared Goff now, quarterback, obviously the starter of the Rams, but named officially the starter this week. John Walford is out with the stinger. So it'll be Goff, Blake Bortles as his backup, and might move up Perkins from the practice squad as their QB3. So, but let's go back, because we didn't have you on till now. Let's go back 3 weeks to just the original injury. You've seen the video now. You've seen him hit the thumb on the helmet. I thought it was crazy, the fact that he was back just 10 days later playing. You hear broken thumb in your throwing arm from a quarterback, you think they're done for the season. And the fact that he was back 10 days later throwing the ball in practice and then ended up playing in the game. What did you take just from the video and how they've been able to get him back so quick?
Yeah. So according to what I looked up, he had a fracture dislocation. It looks like the direct pressure on the helmet, like boom, like so. If I turned it sideways, caused this joint, right? So this joint and not over here. It's called the IP joint, the interphalangeal joint. This is our distal phalanx. That's our proximal phalanx. And it caused this to pop out. And so the question about this popping out at this joint is how much of the bone breaks off. If a small percentage of the bone breaks off, you pop it right back in, it's pretty stable. You basically wear, some tape on it or something like that. And you can go back and play. Well, you saw him finish the game. The question becomes, when it's unstable, what do you do? And if the piece is large enough, sometimes it takes some screws or tiny screws, or sometimes screws with a little piece of rope to stabilize it. And Dr. Steve Shin, who's actually another one of my mentors, and he's a great friend. He's a phenomenal hand surgeon. He is the one that did it. He's the guy that did Drew Brees' UCL injury in his thumb. Was it last season? So he's in the best of hands, and I'm confident that they did a great job. And he's back. Well, he was back 2 weeks later. Mm-hmm. So they probably were able to stabilize it quite well. The good news is it wasn't down here, because if it was down here, he'd have a lot more trouble throwing that grip on that football. So I think that's good too. He can get away with a little bit more. But I have a lot of faith in him as an athlete, as well as Dr. Shin.
Yeah. So something me and Frost talked about leading up to the first playoff game, because Frost was adamant. I agree with them that Walford was going to be the starter, which he was. He was in the starter, ended up getting injured, 2 drives in, but was the starter. And a lot of that was kind of our thought to, Goff is still your franchise guy. You don't want to do anything to jeopardize the future of that. Also, just being that quick of surgery, we didn't think he was fully ready, either mentally or physically. So I'll ask you the same question I kind of asked Cooper. Him playing with what we know, again, not knowing everything, but what we know, is there a chance he can do more structural damage to what that, very recent surgery?
Yeah, so that's a great question. It's all about risk-benefit ratio, right? So the bottom line is, I think if this wasn't the playoffs, they'd probably say, hey, let's go ahead and bench him, right? Because the bone takes, so them telling us that it's a fracture dislocation, a fracture is broken, the bone takes at least about 6 weeks to heal or have enough healing to feel confident. So what's really holding this together, whatever fixation he put, the screw and rope combo, that's what's really holding this together. So Dr. Shin basically has enough confidence that the screw has pretty good fixation. And he's saying he has a discussion with the player, the coaches, the agents, and say, hey, look, this fixation is good. It's not as good as if your bone was healed, but it's good enough to maybe allow you to play. And you run the risk of if it breaks again, well, now we may have more bone loss and we may need a second procedure and you may be out longer. So he's running a little bit of a risk, right? But for him, the way a lot of athletes will look at it is, hey, well, then I don't mind having a second procedure because I have an off season coming up.
Yeah.
Right. So just that's all what it's based on. Mm-hmm. And so it's all risk benefit ratio. And for a guy to be in the playoffs, as Frostee will tell you way better than I can, when athletes are in the playoffs, it takes a lot to keep them out of that game.
Yeah. I mean, that's what all the grind, it's the payday. It's literally everyone's watching you across the world. No other games are on at the moment. And you've been, for the most of us, been playing this game since you're 7, 8 years old to get to these pinnacles of the sport. And, there's no better tournament. I mean, some could argue with all playoff series in March Madness, but for us in football, it's the tournament, and getting in there is so hard to, and no, if you can go, you're going.
Yeah.
Frost, do you think as a player, especially on defense, do you think Goff has earned, I mean, you're all teammates, they love each other, they're brothers, but do you think Goff's earned a little bit more respect being that he 10 days off surgery, came in, won a playoff game, and, playing with a swollen thumb are those guys on defense saying, yeah, that's our quarterback, that's our guy, we can't wait to go to battle for him?
Yeah. I mean, I think that took the pressure off him coming off the bench, to be completely honest. And I think he played very well for coming off the bench after that surgery. This week, I think things are going to be a little bit different because he's going into his normal role and the pressure's back on, especially versus Green Bay and Aaron Rodgers and another Cal alum and, someone he's probably looked up to for a very long time, right?
Oh, yeah.
But again, that it's something to battle. You do want to battle with guys like that will tough it out and go the distance with you. And I mean, this is why he makes the big money. You better show up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And giving Goff a lot of credit, right? There's nothing more important to a quarterback than his hand. And there's nothing more important on that hand than his thumb, right? That grip strength is what matters. So, I mean, he deserves all the credit in the world.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I've been hearing he's been practicing with a glove, maybe to just add a little bit of grip with that. It's always funny to me how all week everyone will talk about, guy playing through pain, what he's going to have to do to put up, similar numbers or be productive. And it can be 2 plays in and everyone forgets about that. And like, oh, Goff's playing it horrible. What's going on? Like the guy can't do anything. It's like, well, he's playing with a surgically repaired thumb. So I got to give him some credit, but should be a great game. All right. But last player I do want to talk about, Doc, since we have you on, Goff, the quarterback, extremely important, either as important or just below. Got to be Aaron Donald, the Terminator, the greatest player in the world right now. And obviously left Seattle game with a rib injury. What do you know about it? What can you tell about it? He is set to play. I'll ask the same question I've asked you for the other 2 guys. Can he damage things more? Just give us anything you do know. Obviously very little information, but what do you know about Aaron Donald and his situation?
Yeah, so they call it torn cartilage of the rib, right? And so it's not a broken rib or anything like that. But in general, the ribs are treated conservatively, meaning we let them heal themselves. It's very rare that you actually have to do any surgery on ribs. There are certain parts that you may have to, but overall, the ribs are treated conservatively. So it comes down to if you can tolerate the pain, you can play.
You good, bro? Want me to check it for you?
Get your fat ass away from me.
Got tested out, dog?
No.
And I'd probably say that there are very few people tougher than Aaron Donald, right, Frost? So
yeah, I'll second that.
So I don't think that a rib injury, and I think it was just one rib. I don't think a single rib injury is going to keep that guy out.
Well, the one thing I can tell you both is that I've had rib injuries also, and when I had rib injuries, I believe it was the same thing as AD got. They gave me a little lidocaine, little shot of that. Obviously, I took the Toradol. Some of the things that you do when you get in a lot of pain, because it's almost like it's just an uncomfortable position you're going in. Sometimes, it's hard to do what we do, grabbing people, twerking and doing things like this because that's your core, right?
Yeah.
So it's something that I toughed out, played weeks with it like that, and it did get better over the course of time. But right now it's the playoffs, like we talked about. You don't have a lot of time. So there's nothing going to keep AD out of this unless something is completely broken.
Yeah. I was going to say, if we take a couple steps back, you look at rib injuries, what does that affect, right? When you hurt your ribs, when you laugh, it hurts. Yeah. If you cough, it hurts. When you're you're taking too much of a respiration, that hurts. So these are all things that are going to hurt him. And, a guy who's huffing and puffing because he's playing his heart out, he can't take a full respiration. That affects his ability, right? So Frostee's right. A little bit of numbing medicine around that area can numb the pain, allowing him to take a full breath. Can giving him that Toradol, which is an anti-inflammatory, can decrease the inflammation, also numb that pain, allowing him to play and turn and torque. And those are important things because that's going to give him a few hours of a pain-free playing time, and that's the important thing. And then after that, he can give it time to heal.
Yeah, and let's be honest, I'm not going to sit here and I don't know any of them. I'm not going to call any Packers offensive linemen dirty players, but I'd be real shocked if when they're going to block AD, they're not immediately punching up into those ribs a little extra hard than usual.
They got to get there first, and that's one of the things with AD. You can't get inside with them.
Yeah,
his hands are always the ones that are offensive, getting to the pads first and steering them. So here's their chance if he has a little kink in his armor, here's your chance. But I'm still going to put all my money on AD winning his one-on-one battles.
I agree. We've seen guys like Brett Favre when he had rib stuff wear like the flak jacket. A lot of quarterbacks do. Would a defensive lineman wear that, Frost, or no? You just take the shot.
It's not really touching it. It's the movements. It's something that brace can't do anything about when you have to breathe and you get in a stance and you got to lean over and stuff like that. So it's a tough one. It's just it adds to the game of football, and that's just part of the thing. When you play defense lineman, it's your ribs, it's your fingers, your toes. Those things get affected all the time. So best of luck to AD, and I'm sure he'll do just fine.
Yeah, and Coach Eric Henderson's, rallied those other guys around him. Morgan Fox had a great game last week in his stead. He's made a name for himself this year, and he played really well. And credit to Coach there. So I think they'll be fine. But AD is set to play. Jared Goff set to play. Cooper Kupp questionable, but I believe he will play in this instance. So Doc, appreciate you as always. It's always fun talking to you and expanding my knowledge and learning about all these things and these terms. So thanks for taking time. I know you're a busy guy.
Anytime, man. I love being on the show, but I need some payback here. I get a chance to ask you two football brainiacs a question. Are you ready?
What's up?
What's the final score of this game? I need your opinions here.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't really done any predictions yet, Ross.
Hey, Doc, this is a tough one for me. Last week I actually went against our team here. I thought Seattle was going to do something with the quarterback situation happening in LA, and Goff ended up going in, playing, moving the ball, making it happen, and winning the game. They're going to hate me for it, but I really don't have any ties there besides Coach Henney. I'm going to go with Green Bay at home. They don't in the forecast. There's no snow, but you're playing versus A-Rod, and he is playing MVP type football, and he should walk away with this award if he goes out there and does what he does. But he is playing versus the number one defense in the league, and they make plays all day long. And it's a great matchup. I think if it goes for a slugfest down to the wire, I'm going to have to go with Green Bay. Close. 28-14 Packers.
Oh, wow.
Go.
Oh, you're going to say it like that? It's going to be a tough game. I've tried so hard not to sound like a homer, but I picked pre-playoffs. My Super Bowl matchup was Bills-Rams. I just will always bet on the best defense in the world, and the Rams have the best defense in the world. We talked last show, not to bore you, Nima, but I had comparisons to some other great defenses that won Super Bowls that had mediocre offenses, which is what the Rams have. And so I think they can go into Green Bay, and if the defense Brandon Staley's been a genius with the looks he's given different quarterbacks, the adjustments they've made throughout the game. They don't blitz very often. They're able to get pressure with 4, but if they throw some blitzes at Aaron Rodgers, get him uncomfortable, and obviously if Jalen Ramsey can lock down Devontae Adams, I like the defense's chance. The offense just has to run the football 35 plus times, take the pressure off Goff, move the ball with Cam Akers, and I think they can do it. So the key here, and I know it sounds very simple or very hard in a sense, but simple to talk about. If they can keep the Packers under 20 points, I like the Rams' chances. So I'm going to go 24-17 Rams.
Ooh, nice.
Okay.
Cool.
Defense wins championships, baby.
They do.
So we'll see. What do you think, Nima, before you go? You probably haven't even looked at it.
28-21 Packers.
28-21 Packers. Okay. All right. So this is like the third show in a row. I've been the lone guy to pick the Rams, and I've been right every time. So let's see.
I hope you're right.
Streak
I
going.
would love to see the Rams win. I hope you're right.
So big game. Should be a great one Saturday. Doc, appreciate you, man. Thanks so much.
Anytime, brother.
It's always a good time when Doc gets to come break it completely down with us about these little detailed injuries that go on. I had a lot of injuries, my playing days ever since I was a kid, bumps, bruises, and strains and pulls and, you name it, I had it. But it's always good to let Doc give us a detailed review.
Yeah. It helps having his knowledge. We talk and joke about couch coaches all the time. Usually it's probably directed at me, but at least I watch the game a lot and, break it down, and I hang out with you a lot. So I can be somewhat close, but yeah, couch doctor, no shot. The closest I get to that is watching Grey's Anatomy. That's about it. But yeah. So yeah, thanks for Doc for coming on. Hopefully Rams fans that gave you some insight to what's going on. Obviously we know these guys are playing, other than Cooper Kupp's questionable, but he will, I think, go. Should be a great game. Another Saturday kickoff. You like but you have the Pack. I have the Rams. So it should be a good one. Maybe we do a little side bet on the side. I don't know. BetOnline.ag has the line at 6.5.
I may go on there. I just may go on there and see what it's like that. I may put my score up there and see if I can win some extra change.
Extra cheddar.
Recoup some of this Christmas.
Extra cheddar. No pun intended with the cheeseheads up there in Wisconsin. But real quick for us, off the cuff, we didn't prep this at all. I just want to at least mention it. Looks like the Chargers on their coaching search, because I do want to mention them really quick. We saw Saleh get hired by the Jets. Looks like Arthur Smith is linked to the Falcons, got offered there. There hasn't been a lot of other hires yet, but those are kind of the ones that are coming to fruition. Urban Meyer down in Jacksonville. To me, it seems like the Chargers have honed in on either Brian Dable, OC for the Bills, or Brandon Staley, DC for the Rams. If those are the two guys, how do you feel about them?
They're not bad candidates, and that's the one thing that I'm sure of. I've been hearing a lot of other names just get thrown in the pack, no pun intended, and like that, right?
Yeah.
I know you like it. No, both those guys are qualified and they deserve a chance. The thing about it is, like, they're doing so well with their respective groups that going to take that head coaching job isn't probably always what it seems to be, because the pressure starts coming on and you got to delegate and takes away from your specialty. And let's see what these guys do and see, if they take the chance and take the lead.
Yeah, we'll see. Still a lot of time, and it just seems like those seem to be the two guys, because Chargers not a lot of noise coming from their camp, and obviously those two guys are still in the playoffs, so that's maybe why no announcement has had. I know Dable's still kind of the fan favorite, but Staley's making a push. I talked about him 3 months ago about he's going to be a head coach in this league sooner than later, so it's kind of cool seeing him all of a sudden get this buzz. And for him, which we talked about a little bit last year, if he were to take a head coaching job, the Chargers makes total sense. Doesn't have to move his family again, doesn't have to move at all from his house. They stay in their community, stays local. Friends that they've made. So for him, it makes a lot of sense. He can bring guys from the staff to the Chargers. They don't have to move. So it seems kind of like a perfect match. It just makes more and more sense. But we'll see how that transpires, if they do schedule any more interviews, or they don't have any more scheduled at the moment. So we'll kind of keep an eye on that. But I think those seem like the top two candidates and what the Chargers will do going forward. But we'll see in the coming weeks as the other jobs start filling up. So Frost, appreciate you as always, man. Good show. Fun. Thanks for getting Doc on.
LA football. We got a good game this weekend. Let's stay tuned. Let's stay aware and root your Rams on.
Here we go. Yeah, go Rams. Should be a great game. Thanks for listening to the Believe in LA Football podcast. Make sure to subscribe to the show wherever you listen to podcasts. We are everywhere you listen. You can also watch us on video platforms. YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, all at LAFB Network. You can find Frost at The Organic Frost. Myself is at Ryan Dyrud, LAFB. We do have a couple giveaways going right now. If you go to our LAFB Network Twitter, we got a couple cases of Bolt Up beer for Chargers fans. You just got to go there, follow us, retweet it. And for Rams fans, we're doing a Robert Woods YG hoodie giveaway. So yeah, just go to our LAFB Network main page and you can enter there. We'll announce both of those winners on we'll do the Rams winner at halftime of the game. The Chargers winner is going to be Monday. So check that out. Thank you all for listening. Enjoy the game. Frost, thanks, man. Enjoy the rest of your day.
You got it. You guys have a great one.
All right, guys. Take care.